Hi, this is Jana Mojin. Welcome to Jana's Kitchen. Today we'll make bread. I love to make bread. I simply love the smell of fresh bread. I love the simplicity of just few ingredients that everybody usually has on hand. Let's talk about that. We will need flour, not a bread flour. We'll try this very basic bleached cheap flour from any grocery store, dollar store, whatever you can get these days. We'll need a little bit of sugar. I mean, it depends on you. If you like your bread sweet, you can add more. And we will need salt. Of course, we will need yeast. And that's what I want to talk about. Yeast is quite expensive, and I have this tip for you. You can buy 2 pounds of yeast either at Costco. If you don't have membership, look for stores where they sell groceries or ingredients for a kitchen. There might be the GFS store. Ask around. Some people will know where you can get this. This is usually around $5 to $7. It depends where you get it. It might be a big investment for someone, and it's certainly a lot of yeast. I never use it completely. I usually share with friends. So this is my tip. Otherwise, the little packets might be quite expensive. So we'll use this active dry yeast, and we will need just simple warm water, about 1 cup. So again, if you have a mason jar, you can measure here. This is a pint, so this is 2 cups. We'll need 1 cup. If you have a measuring tools, cups, jars, anywhere, anything, you can simply just measure 1 cup of water. So we'll just mix some yeast, about, you can use just regular tablespoon, and get about this much. We don't need to measure that. And I usually add a little bit of sugar, maybe 1 teaspoon. You can add more, like I said, if you like your bread sweeter, which is usually very common for Americans. Europeans don't make this kind of bread very sweet, but whatever works for you. We'll stir it and let it rise. The water should be warm to touch. It shouldn't be hot because it will kill your yeast. We'll let our yeast rise for a few minutes in a warm place. You can use this time to practice, send emails, check on friends and loved ones. Let's make sure we don't have any clumps, and we stir it and we'll wait for it. Welcome back. Let's look at our yeast. You're able to see that everything is dissolved, kind of like a foamy texture. That's good. That's what we need. Remember, this is about 1 cup of water. We will put this in our mixer, and now we'll need 3 cups of flour. I've never used this flour, but let's see, it may work. We can't be picky. This is not a typical bread flour. It's just a regular bleached flour. We need 3 cups. I pre-measured, just in case you don't have measuring cups, about 2/3 of a water glass. If you have this kind of glass, it's about this much. This is 3 cups altogether. We'll put it all in our mixer, and we will add I use about 1 teaspoon of salt, which is about this much. If you like your bread saltier, go ahead, or you can use less if you're on low sodium, but this is kind of like regular taste, I guess. Normally I would turn this on, but it's kind of loud, so we'll add a little bit of oil, whatever you have. If you have olive oil, that's good too. If you have regular vegetable or canola oil, that's fine too. I happen to have this sunflower oil that I actually like because it doesn't have a distinctive taste. It works pretty universal. It works for baking, it works for sweet and savory, so I will add this. Let's start with 2 tablespoons. It's usually a splash. It might be even 1/4 of a cup. We'll see. We can always add more. We'll focus on the texture. If you are using your KitchenAid mixer or whatever you have, you know that with this equipment you go on low speed. If you don't have a mixer, you need to do it in a regular good old bowl. Knead the dough and just get a little workout until you get the desired texture. What we are looking for, we want a ball. It will happen, just give it some time. If you do this by hand, you'll be able to kind of put everything together and kind of knead it until you get a ball. It's not a rocket science, everybody can do this. As we can see, our dough is too soft and sticky. It might be the flour, it may be that I didn't measure our oil. So, we won't panic. We'll add a little bit of flour and see what happens. See, our dough is still a little too soft. You can tell how when you grab it, it's a texture that it should be like Play-Doh, but it's not. It's a little sticky and it's just too soft. Maybe I added too much oil. Like I said, I've never used this flour. I usually mix my flour. I use regular unbleached flour, and I usually add a little bit of either dark rye or whole wheat flour. That works with this kind of recipe, but I wanted to try this because we may only be able to get regular bleached flour, which has a little different texture. It's kind of fine, but we'll add a little more flour and see. Okay, let's see what's happening. Definitely a little better texture. I'll try to get it off the hook like this. Let's see what we have. This is not bad. We'll see. Like I said, I've never worked with this flour, but what I want you to see, it's sticky, but it really feels like Play-Doh, pretty much. It's a small bowl. As long as you can hold it like this, it's not runny, but it's not too hard. It's easy to poke. I think we should be good here. We are learning something. Now, we let our bread rise. We can use our surface here, a little bit of flour. We'll form a loaf. If you have a pan for bread, you can use that, of course. I have those, but I don't like them, and not everybody may have them. I just don't like to get that bread out of the pan. It doesn't always work, especially if we don't have an exact recipe. We'll see. So we can use sheet, whatever size you have. You probably have something smaller. I do have that too, but it really doesn't matter. The bread will get a little bigger, so don't put it in on a tiny sheet, but anything should work. I found this smaller old sheet pan. There we go. We'll sprinkle a little bit of flour and see how it feels. It might be still a little bit soft, so we'll see. This flour is definitely different than what I usually use, but maybe we can add a little bit of flour and kind of reshape Now that we have our bread ready, we need to let it rise. I like to use a clean kitchen towel, whatever you have, as long as it's clean. Cover it up and put it in a warm place. It may be on top of your stove or somewhere where it's not drafty or super cold. Room temperature should be fine. We'll see what happens. This will take about 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, let's see. Not bad. There's hope. We'll put it in the oven that I turned on already. It's preheated. I know my oven, and I know that I need to set it to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I'd like to start with that, and then I lower it down to 350. You really want like hot oven to start with. I would say 25 minutes and we'll look at our bread. We have this. I would say this is pretty successful. If you have a brush and water, you can brush your bread. This doesn't make much difference except for the crust. This is, if you like crusty bread, this should help. But if you don't do it, that's fine. You don't have to. I'll put it back for, I would say, 15 more minutes. Let's see. This was 15 minutes after we brushed it. Looking good, but to make sure, I will put it back in the oven for 5 more minutes. Well, we could go a little longer. I think it will be safe to eat, but maybe we could do 5 more minutes. We can brush it again if we want to for the nice crust. Let's see. Here it is. I think it's looking good, so we'll just let it cool, and then we'll see how it turned out. So our bread is cool enough to cut. I can't wait, so it's still a little warm, but I just can't wait. So I'm gonna do it. Let's see how it turned out. Well, so far it looks like it's all baked through. We'll see. Cut another slice. Well, maybe not the most beautiful or the best bread, but it worked. So you can make a simple bread with only few ingredients. I'm glad it worked out. We'll be back with more recipes. Let us know what you would like to learn. If you have any questions or suggestions, we'll be here. My name is Jana with Dark Shadow Recording.